So there's been tremendous controversy about the movie Cuties, and it's funny. There's now a hashtag cancel Netflix campaign, and so on my Twitter I ran an informal quiz that said, "Why do you want to hashtag cancel Netflix?" And the two options were because I have seen Cuties or because I have heard about Cuties. And 100% so far, 100% of the people who have responded have said that they want to cancel Netflix because they have heard about Cuties. They have not watched it. So I literally just got done watching it as I sit down to record this. And there have been a lot of different interpretations of what's going on here. Briefly speaking, there was a tremendous amount of controversy when Netflix announced the advertising campaign for this movie with a poster that depicted a group of preteen girls in extremely provocative clothing and in extremely provocative positions. And so people automatically, without any great knowledge of the subject matter or what was going on, automatically started, went full tilt in the direction of, claiming that the movie was somehow, jerk off material for pedophiles and that sort of thing. And so the movie, the Netflix was quick to point out its error and take down the poster and try to better clarify what the movie is and what it's actually about. So I wanted to actually, see for myself. Earlier today, I was on the fence about whether or not I wanted to watch it, mainly because I had to reactivate my Netflix account to see it. And I watched Ben Shapiro's commentary on it earlier, and to his credit, very much to his credit, he did not go off the deep end with a lot of insane conservative conspiracy theory stuff. He actually did offer a rather nuanced commentary on the film. The very first thing that needs to be said, and it can't be emphasized enough, is this movie is absolutely not jerk-off material for pedophiles. It is not in any way, shape, or form an endorsement of child sexuality. It is not any of that at all. Basically, the movie follows, and spoilers ahead, by the way. The movie follows a little girl who's aged 11, named Ami, spelled Amy but pronounced Ami, who is originally from Senegal. She is an immigrant to Paris with her family. And as the movie begins, her father has left her and her grandmother and her mother alone with her younger and older brothers, to in anticipation of the father bringing home a new bride. So he's going to have a second wife. It's a polygamous marriage. He's going to bring home a second wife, and the father is absent for the duration of the film. And so Ami has no real connection to the traditionalist Muslim family structure, culture, lifestyle that she's being raised in. It does not connect with her at all. At school, at her school, she meets a group of her fellow classmates who dress in very, very sexually provocative clothing, especially for girls their age. They dress in a way that is very, very mature for girls their age, and they have a kind of dance troupe that they've put together, and they dance in hopes of joining this competition. So throughout the movie, what ultimately happens is they ultimately get into the dance competition, and when they go on stage, they do this extremely sexually provocative dance, and it is every bit the nauseating brain bleach that it is made out to be. Yes, this is a very, very disturbing portrayal of preteen child sexuality. It is very unsettling, and it is that part is certainly not for the faint of heart. However, again, I have to pause and say it is not an endorsement. God dang it! It is not an endorsement at all of child sexuality at all. Instead, what happens in the film is once the dancing starts heating up and getting very provocative, people in the crowd start booing, and eventually the main girl, Ami, breaks down, starts crying. She runs away, runs off the stage, and she has this revelation that this is not the right way to behave. So, with that in mind, I looked at it and I looked at, what is this movie really trying to say? And I think there are a few different interpretations you can take. Ben Shapiro's interpretation, he was trying to say that, his interpretation being someone I think that's very conservative-minded about the culture, very, he's libertarian but socially conservative in his own worldview. Pardon me. He makes the point that, or he tries to make the point that it's what the movie is saying is that this adult sexual culture is bleeding down into youth culture and all of that, and that's inevitable. That was not the message that I got from the movie. The message I got from the movie was that if you don't take the time to raise your kids the right way and actually be a part of your child's life, they're going to raise themselves as best they can. They're going to look at adult culture and start basically running simulations, trying to figure out what works, what makes sense, trying to make sense of the adult world as best they can. For example, there's a scene where one of the girls, they're playing in the woods, and one of the girls finds a used condom and inflates it like a balloon. And, she inflates it like a balloon, and the other girls freak out because they start saying, no, that's a condom, and you could have AIDS and all this stuff. And the girl that blew up the condom says, it's not my fault, I didn't know what it was. And I thought that was really very telling, because I really felt like that was like a strong thesis statement for this movie, that these girls don't appreciate they don't understand the reality of what they're doing. They don't understand the reality of what they're doing. They just understand that this is what gets likes, this is what gets clicks. In the absence of parental involvement, this is where they're going for approval. And they start reaching, start trying to feel things out that way. And so Mitzi wants you to play a drinking game where every time she goes by you get take a shot. Anyway, and the thing is, though, the reason I think that's the right message, or the right message that we're supposed to glean from this movie, or at least an important, prominent message, is the movie takes the time to show us with each of these girls how their parents are absent, or so completely out of touch with culture, the modern culture, they don't know what's going on, or they're there but they just don't give a shit, or they're only interested in the boys in the family. That can, they show all of these reasons why all these different parents don't give a shit, and we keep seeing these shots throughout the movie of adults and adult development happening from Ami's perspective, where, for example, in one scene, she's hiding under the bed and her mother comes in the room, and we really see like her mother's feet and how worn they are and how old they are and the age and the lines in the feet and everything. Then there's another scene where she's looking at an adult woman who's still fairly young, and she has this very pronounced backside and everything, and it zooms in on that, and it's like she's trying to work things out. That's the thing. We see her thought process and what she's focusing on and what she's trying to figure out through all of this. And in her case, her father's completely absent. She lives with her mother and her grandmother. The mother is not really able to be a part of the daughter's life because the elderly grandmother is the one, the kind of the matriarch of the family that's running everything in the father's absence. And the so she's the one that kind of runs everything. And what happens is when the grandmother finds out what Ami is doing, all of this kind of pseudo slutty behavior that she's engaging in, posting pictures and everything, she starts. She tries to deal with the situation by basically having exorcisms. Like, I don't know what the terminology would be in the Muslim culture, but it's like, they have a ritual where she and some of the other women douse Ami with what must be holy water. At one point, they have a priest come and talk to her, and he does some kind of ritual around her. Or I don't know, again, in Muslim culture, I don't know, it would be a priest in Christian culture, comes and does some kind of like exorcism ritual on her. And the point being, like, look, lady, you're completely out of touch. This is not going to help. Your very best understanding of what to do for this girl is not going to help. You are completely out of touch with this culture. You have to, if you want to raise the child correctly, you have to understand and be an active participant in the culture in which they're actively living. There is a point, I don't want to give too much away. Who am I kidding? I've already given most of it away. There's a point at the very end where Ami's mother finally stands up to the grandmother and tells Ami, if you don't want to go to your father's wedding, you don't have to. And so Ami doesn't go to the wedding. Instead, she just goes. She puts on normal kid clothes, jeans and a button-down sweatshirt, and she goes outside and starts skipping rope with some other kids. And the message being, she's finally found the happy medium between Islamic extremism, I shouldn't say extremism, but traditional conservative Islamic culture and wacko, psycho, super sexualized preteen adolescent culture. She's just a kid, finally. She's behaving like a kid her age ought to behave. And that's the happy medium that we ultimately see at the end. And so that was on and on again. And what was interesting was that what really reinforced it, there's a little just blink and you miss it scene that has so much meaning to it, which is periodically Ami is left in charge of her little younger brothers who are in their like single digit ages, very young. And she always ignores, they will turn to her for attention or guidance of some kind, and she ignores it. And there's always great catastrophes as a result. So, for example, at one point she ignores her little brother in the bathtub, and he creates a he floods the entire apartment, and she goes in the bathroom and he's in there swimming. Says, "I made a swimming pool," and all of that. So there's that scene. There's another scene where the little brother asks her, he wants to pour some cereal, and he says, "How much can I have?" And she says, she says, "Whatever, I don't care." And so what does he do? Of course, he pours way too much cereal into the bowl, and it overflows and goes everywhere and makes a mess. And it's these little moments like that where she's having to act in loco parentis for the for her younger siblings, that we start to see the parental neglect transfer down. And that's why I really think what the movie's trying to say is that, you have to actively parent your kids, you have to be involved in their lives, you have to really understand what's going on and what they're doing. You cannot leave them up to their own devices, in this case their smartphones, no pun intended. But you can't leave them up to their own devices, and you have to, you can't be lost in a different world, such a different world from your kids that you can't even communicate with them. That is what I felt like this movie was trying to say. From a filmmaking standpoint, I thought it was well done. I thought it was all conveyed very well. And like I said, there's a lot of subtlety and subtle cues in the movie, nuances that really are very well plotted and well thought out. I felt like it ran a little long. I mean, it's not a terribly long movie, but it just felt like, I don't know, there were quite a few scenes that seemed redundant. The it all just seemed redundant. There's a scene towards the end where Ami, in an attempt to like one up all of the other girls, she photographs her genitalia. It's not done explicitly, by the way. She photographs her genitalia with her smartphone and uploads it to social media, which causes a huge stir. That felt a little unrealistic because if she did that, that would be the creation of actual child pornography. So the authorities would get involved at that point. So the idea that that just happened and all it did was make the children at school giggle, that did not feel realistic or reasonable to me. That should have, in reality, that should have been when the police got involved. Other than that, I really, what was so interesting, all of the little girls in this group were extraordinary actresses, and what was so fascinating to me was, or heartbreaking, I should really say, is you see these moments where they're not doing these pseudo adult behaviors. They're just acting like kids. You know, they're just hanging out, playing, acting like kids. There are those little moments, and it's so heartbreaking because you see the difference between the genuine behavior and the weird, I keep saying weird, the creepy pseudo adult behavior that they don't understand but they feel like they ought to do. And you see those things laid out very in a very well, no pun intended, a well choreographed, well structured way, where it just hits you on so many different levels. There are the moments of expression of child sexuality that are horrifyingly difficult to watch. I shouldn't say horrifying. They're tremendously uncomfortable to watch. It's not like Salo, where it shows characters are actually being raped or murdered or anything like that. It's just very, very uncomfortable, and they really know that they're creating they're walking a very fine line and leaning just a little bit over it, and they really know what they're doing. They really know how to make you cringe without they make you cringe the whole time without just wanting to jump up and say this movie must be censored. There's really, I don't think, anything in it that's that extreme. It just puts you on edge just enough to the one movie that it reminded me of in a way. There's a movie called La Vida en Rosa, I think is how you say it in Spanish, but it's My Life in Pink is the translation, and it's a movie about a young boy about the same age as these girls who and this movie came out decades ago. But he's a young boy who is coming to realize that he is transgendered, and that movie again is about it's dealing with parental acceptance and social norms and all that, but it's a very similar movie in that they capture that, they give you that understanding that yes, this is uncomfortable, yes, this is veering into very unacceptable territory, but we are meant to understand that this is not conveying child sexuality, it's conveying extraordinary child naivete. That's the very fine line. That film walks, this film walks. That's what I got from it. It is not in any way, shape, or form jerk-off material for pedophiles. And we have this, there has been automatically this explosion of controversy coming from largely right-wing news sources that are trying to say that the movie is promoting all of that and everything, and that is very simply not what it is. Now, that's not to say that it is for the faint of heart. That is not to say that it is not a controversial movie. That is not to say that it is not risque. Any of that. No, it is a movie that's going to challenge you and is going to really make you, it's going to grab you by the throat. It's really going to make you stop and think. And so in that context, I would recommend it. There's a movie. It's a movie that's going to make you think. See it with some people. There will inevitably be a discussion. Now, the thing is, we then move from an analysis of the actual movie into an analysis of the culture around it. And this is, and again, there are people who are saying, so first people want to say that the movie is promoting child sexuality and pedophilia, and then they say, and incidentally, there's nothing, there is in the movie, there is young girls behaving in a very sexualized manner. There is no adult corollary, really, of men of men showing reciprocity for that behavior. So there's not like a pedophile character that's venerated in the movie or anything. That's not there. There's not even a badly received pedophile character like the Jackie Earle Haley character in Little Children. So that's not there at all. But, so people are trying to say that it is in some way normalizing it. It's not. They're trying to say that it is in some way, it's not catering to pedophiles or anything like that. But here's the thing, as I watch it, we have been, the people on the kind of libertarian right have been, and the sort of, I guess you could say, the libertarian right and the authoritarian left have been very much at odds in recent years, to such a degree that people like myself who would like to identify more left-leaning find themselves having more, and I say identify as a libertarian because they find themselves having more in common with the libertarian right, to the extent that the libertarian right is not freaking out about everything. It has been, I think it was Michael Malice who said that what society gets prudish about changes, but the level of prudery remains constant. And I need to look that up because I've quoted him twice on that now. But it was someone like that. But the quote is very apropos. Recently, we have been dealing with the left getting extraordinarily freaked out about everything. Movies that portray this minority group the wrong way, or portray this minority group the wrong way, or don't have enough women, or don't have enough gays, or they get offended about every little thing, and everything in the fucking planet has to be canceled and done away with, and they just want to witch trial the entire culture because it's not conforming to their PC standards. And there has been a healthy emergence on the right of of sanity. Of a certain amount of sanity of people saying, wait a minute, we can stop and think about this, we can stop and think about this, stop freaking out, stop trying to cancel everything. And then what happens is, inevitably now, something like this comes along, and the right wing is exploding with controversy and cancel it, and the left wing commentators are showing up and saying, no, wait, look at the subtleties and the nuance, and here's what it's actually trying to say, etc., etc., etc. And it just goes to show that neither side, neither group in this situation is immune to freaking the fuck out. And all of these groups on both sides are totally willing and totally happy to just go off half-cocked and go crazy about everything anything that offends their sensibilities. So if it's just the left is going to go crazy about wokeness and representation and the Bechdel test and all of this bullshit, all that bullshit. They're going to go crazy about that, and the right is going to go crazy about matters of sexual expression, things related to being pro-choice, things related to things related to the vaxxer thing is really on either side of the discussion, but they have their own things. The left has their own things. And we, as a society, have got, not just a society, a human species, have got to get past this ridiculous thing of, oh my God, this piece of media exists in the culture. Now people are going to see it and go emulate it. Good God, we've got to get past that. And I think this movie was trying to make a commentary on that, saying that if you are worried about your kids emulating this, if you're worried about how your kids behave and how to, embodying the sexualized material and everything, the first and foremost step is you've got to be involved in their lives. And you've got to be involved in their lives in a better way than just yelling at them and smacking them upside the head when they walk through the door. You have to actually be involved in their lives. You have to teach them real practical values that they can actually use, and you have to steer them in the right direction. So that I really felt like that's what this movie was trying to get across. So anyway, again, as far as the controversy surrounding it, like so many things, like so many things, I do feel like it is controversial and not for the faint of heart, but at the end of the day, the larger controversy surrounding it is much ado about nothing. Last October, almost a year ago, last October, everybody was freaking the fuck out because Joker came out in theaters and they were convinced that some crazy incel was going to come, get a gun, and shoot up the entire cinema. And now, less than a year later, here we are freaking the fuck out again because everyone thinks that this movie is going to make, is going to give pedophiles some wild idea that they hadn't already had. So, anyway, this societal freakout has got to stop. Just once, I would love it if a controversial thing could come into existence and nobody freaks the fuck out. But then, if they didn't freak the fuck out, it wouldn't be controversial. So, or it wouldn't register as controversial. So, that is my real aggravation. Do I think the film has a valid message to make? Yes. Do I recommend it for mature audiences? Yes. And do I think that it is promoting child sexuality or pedophilia? Absolutely not. It is the complete opposite.